Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I just want to say, yeah, it is like blazing hot right now, but it's beautiful on the outside. I just want to share with you another lovely day and another part of my book on the Mark Bible by Charles Taylor. I'm going to be doing chapter 2. Last time we checked up on chapter 1 when he he was very rebellious towards his mother when she actually tell him something about God. But right now I'm going to talk about a godly sea captain. After he left, a godly sea captain answered a prayer, and that's going to take us like 3 pages. Okay, alrighty, so here goes. It was a bright May morning when the Alaska transport, with Harold Wilson aboard as an ordinary deckhand, put on through the Golden Gate for Melbourne. It was a day of gloom to Harold, notwithstanding the apparent bravado of his hardened life. Down deep in his heart there was a something akin to boyhood tenderness which he could not throw aside. As the great vessel responding to her mighty propeller gained in momentum and was quickly finding her way out into the great Pacific, and the shores of the homeland began to fade from view, there came to Harold for the first time in many years a partial consciousness of the value of his mother. He could not explain why, but now that she was no longer within reach, no longer where he could realize her presence, she began to assume a different appearance to his mind's eye. After all, she was beautiful, and could he have made the wake of the vessel a path for returning, he would gladly have hastened home. Hey guys! Of course, this feeling was only temporary, yet it showed that the time was not altogether past when a mother's love appealed to this son's affection, and it was this tender spot which I'm sorry, I just got distracted. It showed that the time was not altogether past when a mother's love appealed to his son's affections, and it was this tender spot which a great providence was to touch, and through which it would work to cause Harold Wilson to forsake his sins. The tear that stole its way to the young man's cheek was quickly brushed away, and he resolutely strove to drown all thought of her mother's prayers and heap the purpose for which they were offered. He said to himself, "Be game, be game, old man, and don't play the baby." And surely he seemed to succeed in his determination to forget the crew of the Alaska transport was the usual motley group of different nationalities, nearly all of whom were abandoned to drink, profanity, and irreligion. Among them Harold was a hale fellow, well met. "Hello, what's this?" Harold was in search of a needed garment, and as he pulled it from his sailor's chest, a package fell to the floor. "Ooh, I wonder what that is." "I never saw this before," he exclaimed, and hastily removed the wrapper. "A Bible? A Bible? And did mother think me much an idiot that I would stand for such nonsense? But say it's a dandy book. I wonder what it costs. My, but this is funny. Harold Wilson, a common drunk, And the thief, besides having a Bible at sea, I guess I'll ask for the job of preaching to the boy. Ooh. He opened the book just to see how a Bible looked inside, and there in the familiar writing of his good mother were the words, "My darling boy." A lump came into his throat. For an instant he was transported back to his childhood, and he saw himself in his innocence enjoying the endearing word which for so long a time now he had professed to spurn. Again a tear, an unwelcome tear, made its way down his cheek. Instinctively he turned his face lest the eye of some fellow sailor should discover his weakness. Big man don't cry. But he could not resist reading his mother's brief message written on the flyleaf, nor did he lay the book down. Rather, threw it down until he had glanced through its pages and discovered the markings of his tender mother's hands. Not only were passages marked, but in connection written in the margin were words of truth and admonition, which only his mother could ever have penned. Wow. I don't want this thing, he cried out. Must I be haunted by this miserable stuff wherever I go? And throwing the book into the box, he slammed down the cover and turned in for the night. About a month had passed, and a hard month indeed it had been. The journey had been made through rough seas, and no more than one occasion there had been imminent danger. And then a fire out in the hold. The Alaska transport had aboard a heavy consignment of kerosene oil, and a fire meant almost certain death to all on board. A strong force of firefighters was therefore set to work in a frantic effort to smother the flames before they should reach the cargo of oil. Captain Mann, who was in charge of the vessel, was a Christian, a person of few words, and a man whose personality commanded the respect and even the admiration of his men. He was courteous, brave, temperate, refined, a striking exception to the rank and file of the crew that manned the ship. For more than 30 years he had been in command at sea, but this was his first experience with a burning vessel. The cry of fire had called for the strongest that was in him, though his nature almost staggered at the peril of the situation. He calmly but quickly placed every man at his most, and every man fought with confidence because of something that Captain Mann possessed in this period of danger. Harold Wilson, in particular, took note of the spirit of courage and confidence shown by him. But suddenly the captain disappeared, and almost as suddenly a new emergency compelled the first mate to call for his assistance. Harold Wilson was dispatched to find him. Pale with fear, the young man hastened to the captain's room. The door stood ajar. He was about to call out his message when a voice from within checked him. It was the voice of prayer. To make certain, he pushed the door a bit further open, and lo, there was the captain on his knees, his Bible open before him, his face turned upward. The throbbing of the engines and the general excitement aboard had caused Harold's coming to be unnoticed, and thus the captain continued his prayer, while Harold seemed spellbound. The prayer touched a responsive chord. Why should it not? It was a prayer that the God of the Bible would fulfill his promise and save the lives of the crew. And Harold Wilson was one whose life was in the balance. For the first time in his career, he was glad to see a praying man. Haha. Captain Man's Bible refugee was Psalms 107:23 to 31. This assurance was his comfort. No, whether storm or fire, it mattered not. God would bring them out of their distress unto their desired haven. This was the promise which Harold Wilson heard Captain Mann plead. But, strange to say, Psalms 107:23 to 31 was one of the passages Mrs. Wilson had marked in the Bible given her son. Was the captain's prayer to be answered? Harold had only a moment to wait, for Captain Mann was soon on his feet and hastening back to his perilous duty. Harold made known his message and also rushed again to his post. The fire had been gaining headway rapidly. Despite heroic resistance, the vessel seemed doomed. In a few minutes, the vast cargo of oil must ignite, and then all would be over. But now a great explosion took place. The closed hatches were almost blown from the deck. The crew were terror stricken, not knowing but that the oil was already in the grip of the fire. What had happened? Ah, one of those providential things which only the Christian can understand. A large steam pipe had burst and was now pouring an immense volume of superheated steam and water into the hold at the point of greatest danger. An unseen hand had assumed control. Thank you, Jesus. Soon the volume of black smoke gave place to clouds of white steam, and the fighters knew that the salvation of the ship was assured. So wonderful did it all seem, the crew were not slow to express their astonishment and gratitude. Do yes believe, Captain, that the big man had something to do with it? Inquired a rough Irishman, Pat Moran by name. Captain Mann had perhaps erred in his views regarding religious life in one respect. He held it unnecessary to talk to his men about Christianity, but rather allowed them to discover what they could about his ideas from what he actually lived before them. But now he was drawn out to confess his faith. Men, said he, that steam pipe was broken by the hand of the Almighty. It did not merely happen. There is a God who hears and answers prayer. He has promised to help men who go to sea, and today he has kept his word. Harold's marked Bible, like an unwelcome spirit, seemed to haunt him as he listened. But say, Captain, do ye really believe that her saying again spoke Pat? That's the Irishman. Ah, my boy, I have believed for many long years. But where did he get the idea? Where, as the big man told ye, that he would take care of us poor lunatics? Pat, I had a good mother who taught me to pray to God up in heaven. She taught me also to read the Bible, the book that God helped good men to write. In that book, he tells us that we all belong to him, that we are to obey him, and that he will take care of us. He says he will save men who are in trouble while traveling the seas. Did you never see a Bible, Pat? Sure, and I never did, he exclaimed. But believe me, I would like to put the eye of me on such a work. Again, Harold Wilson was ill at ease. A good mother, a God, a Bible, and answered prayer. All these thoughts were as goads which hurt, and hurt deeply. Had he not a good mother? Had she not taught him to believe in God and to pray? Had she not often appealed to him to read the Bible and to obey his precepts? Yes, all this and much more. Pat Moran and others at this time off duty accepted Captain Mann's invitation to go to his room and look at the promises which that day had saved the lives of all on board. Harold went with them. The Bible lay open on the table near the door. There, men is the book. There, men, is the book of my mother taught me to love, said the captain. And right there is a promise which put out the fire and saved your lives and mine. He read to them as he spoke the scripture, which for a long time had been his refuge. Harold looked into the captain's face. What a good face! How clean looking and how free from coarseness. Honesty, sincerity, nobility, they were to be traced in every furrow. And this was a man of the Bible. He, a practical, helpful, wholehearted sea captain. Quickly, filling his mouth with a chew of plug tobacco, Harold hastened from the room to his own part of the vessel. Nervously throwing open his box, he snatched up the Bible given him by his mother and tried to find the verses that the captain had just read. He finally found them. In the margin, he read these words from his mother's pen: I shall ever pray that this promise may be your refuge at sea, to save you from storm or accident. He closed the book and angrily threw it down, angry to think that he had not succeeded in getting beyond the reach of his mother's influence. The entire experience was like a nightmare. No sooner, therefore, did he see his text and its accompanying statement than he felt within him all the old time antagonizing and bitterness, giving away to all his pent out wrath. He sprang to his feet with a curse on his lips. He took the Bible to the open door and impetuously threw it far out into the sea. There, that ends this whole curse business, he muttered. And then, imagining that he had performed a praiseworthy act, he sauntered out on deck. Wow. And I will stop right there right now. And we will get back to chapter 3 in a little bit. I think we can do 3 today. But for right now, I'm going to stop right now. Peace out. Have a blessed day. See you in a little bit.